Boom, and I'm live. Um, hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me in this video. It was Mark Twain who is reputed to have said that it's easier to fool people than to convince them that they have in actual fact been fooled. And the evidence of that is everywhere. Um, I was looking at Instagram this afternoon and I went through a series of posts which kind of showed dead ball kicks, football foul uh, uh, penalties, which meant that the team attacking was taking uh, a free kick 20, 30 yards out from goal. And these were shots taken against teams like Manchester United. In 2019, their team was worth about about 700 million pounds. Liverpool, at the same time, their squad was worth about 900 million, and Manchester City, whose squad was worth £1 billion. The reason I mention the value of these squads is just to demonstrate that these are elite athletes, elite sportsmen, right at the top of their game, playing for the top clubs in the world, and how they can be fooled by these spot kicks. So usually there's a guy standing over the ball, and you imagine that he's the guy who's going to take the shot at goal. But then usually on a quality team, there'll be 3 or 4 other people who are really good strikers of the ball. And of course, the opposing team normally arranges a lineup, a wall of players between the guy standing over the ball and the goal. And it's amazing how often that despite the preparation for all of this, these goals get scored. Now, it could be the guy who's standing over the ball who strikes the ball. He could pass the ball. My favorite is when they lift it over the wall and another player who is completely unrelated to the original striker of the ball comes in and scores a goal. And it's always, always, always the element of surprise that wins the day. Now, what's curious is that these plays don't work unless they've been carefully, meticulously planned and rehearsed. And they run over these plays over and over on the training ground weeks and weeks and weeks before the game. So on the game, they pull the play and bang, you have a goal. And everybody's standing there scratching their heads and wondering, how could they have fallen for that? Well, it's very easy. In the world of men, in the world of politics and current affairs, we are just as easily fooled. And normally, my observation, it's 3 things that cause us to be fooled. First of all, we don't have access to all the facts. And so if you don't have access to all the facts about something that's happening, say, in politics, you can easily be fooled because you don't have the insight that's required. Then there are 2 other things. Now, those things are external factors, but there are 2 other internal factors which make us all prone to being fooled far more often than we need be. The first one I'd like to call the cognitive consonance issue, in that we all want the world to be the way we see it. So how we interpret current affairs and events around us need to fit the script we have created, the map we have drawn of the world around us. So it's more like wishful thinking. And of course, what we wish the map to be or wish the narrative to be could have absolutely no relationship to the reality of the world as it is. The third thing, which is also internal, the second of the internal factors, is fear. when you're frightened or worried about a situation, you're in a state essentially of fight or flight. And this is the worst possible situation for you to analyze any set of events. So that when you're fearful, you will do the first thing that in your hind mind you believe will lead to your security. And so it is on account of fear that we give up our liberties, we give up our privileges, we give up all manner of necessities for our civilized sovereign existence, so that we can be safe and we can be secure. And this is how humanity constantly gets traduced. It's happened with the way the pandemic was treated, with the medical strategies that were unveiled upon us, with the resulting ongoing consequences of those medical strategies, with our vulnerability, because we've been sensitized to the fear of pandemics, to future pandemics, which we're told are going to happen. So everything is there. We don't have all the facts. Usually, we don't have the insights into what is going on. We have the natural desire for things to just go back to normal, for pity's sake, because we're tired of this business of biting our nails and being locked down, and having our lives interrupted, and social distancing and all the other madnesses that we were all forced to endure globally. We want things never to go back to that. We want things to go back to the old normal that we knew. That's cognitive consonance. The third thing, of course, is the terror that, because of the way the stories were reported, how painful a demise that COVID could lead to, even though it was the actual consequence, the actual causation of death was less than 2% of people who were infected. Still had the majority of people in society literally biting their fingernails as to how they could secure and protect their lives. Now, when the football kick was being taken, the decision had long been planned on, the decision for the play had long been planned on the training field. And it had been meticulously worked out who would stand where, how hard the ball would be kicked, where it would be lobbed, who was going to run a decoy to take away the marking opposing players. And so everything had been carefully mapped out for weeks. But in the world of politics, in the world of economics, these things for us had been marked out for decades and sometimes centuries. And I want to share two ideas. Use your discernment. I want to share two ideas which enabled us to be traduced in the way we responded to the pandemic. First of all, when your bodily sovereignty is at risk, when the bodily sovereignty of your children and your wards are at risk, when there is the possibility of social scoring through social monitoring, when there's a possibility that we are each going to carry some kind of digital pass which will be used to control our behavior, when there's the possibility that we will all, through some kind of process of transhumanization, be hooked up to a hive mind, and you cannot have membership of a hive mind and keep your personal sovereignty 100%. When these things are happening, most people are nervous. Most people do not want to do it. But it doesn't take many people to plan this, as it didn't take many people to plan the spot kick on the training ground. Everybody else is completely in the dark about what is going to happen in future.